And here is the town of Olympia. That's it, pretty small. And here's the History of the Olympic Games Museum. I'll put up a bit of footage, but I'm not looking to bore the tits off anyone with a load of video inside a museum. We'll save that for the archaeological site. So, just walking through the entrance into the archaeological site here at ancient Olympia. Loads of these sides round with the QR code to download the free app to the free audio tour. So just walking down this corridor, gonna throw it left into this room, or what was a room, because this one's particularly special. So I'm currently stood in the middle of the palestra. Excuse me if I have pronounced that wrong. You can see all the pillars and columns going right round here. So this was the room used for practice of wrestling, boxing and pancration. Now pancration, I believe, translates to all strength, which is like an early form of MMA. And they had a standing only version of that and a standing and ground version as well, which was like obviously closer to modern day MMA, where no biting and no gouging was allowed, except for when it was held, funnily enough, in Sparta. They were allowed to bite and eye gouge. So yeah, so quite prominent being a combat athlete and coach, to be stood in the middle of this room here. So the original arch and the walkway down to the ancient Olympic Athletics Stadium, which is behind me. And look at this, perfect timing. No one in the Olympic Stadium here at ancient Olympia, so I'm gonna get sweating and do an obligatory lap. Amazing to think that every 4 years without interruption for 1,169 years, I think how many athletes have got their steps up in here. And before I came into the archaeological site, I was in the History of the Olympic Games Museum, and there was no mention of this actually, which is all right. All the information's readily available online. But so I grew up in a town called Shrewsbury in the county of Shropshire, and just 4 or 5 miles outside of Shrewsbury there's another small town. There's about 3,000 people that live there, called Much Wenlock, and Much Wenlock was arguably the birthplace of the modern Olympic Games. So every year since 1850 they hold the Wenlock Olympics, and it's obviously it's an annual event, and I believe it's still held. Used to run in July. That might have changed. It's been 10 years since that thought's even crossed my mind. So that was kind of headed up by a guy called Dr. William Penny Brooks, and he kind of worked his way up politically and whatnot, and he encountered a fella called Pierre de Coubertin, who's seen as the father of the modern day Olympic Games. And Coubertin actually went to Much Wenlock to see the games in 1890, I believe, and then it was just 6 short years later that the first modern Olympics was held in Athens in 1896. So you can still go to Much Wenlock, and there's like commemorative slabs and stuff like that, and like a little Olympic tour that you can go and do there, which is well worth doing. It's a beautiful place. And actually at London 2012, one of the mascots was called Wenlock, which was a bit of a tip of the hat from the British Olympic Association, I suppose. to Wenlock's place in the history of the modern Olympic Games. So yeah, bit of Olympic and sporting history there for those that hadn't come across that before. So that's me done at Olympia. An absolute must if you're an athlete or a sports fan. Archaeological site. It is humongous. Actually, it's huge, much bigger than what I thought it was going to be. And then yeah, the stadium. I've sat up here for a couple of hours and quite difficult to turn myself away from, actually. But onwards we must go. For now, we are off to Sparta.